Hey guys, welcome or welcome back to my channel. If it's your first time here, you're welcome. In this video, I'm going to share with you how I made this cute dress with loops for a snatched waist. So if it's your first time here, please make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. It's absolutely free to do that. So the first thing I'm doing here is to mark out my start point, which is going to also serve as my shoulder line. Then I'll mark my vertical measurements, which means my shoulder to bust, my shoulder to waist, my shoulder to hip. And while drafting this pattern now, I will not be using the shoulder to under bust measurement because this dress is going to be a free dress. It's the loops behind that's going to snatch the waist a bit. So I'm just trying to show you that my shoulder measurement to bust is 10 and my shoulder to waist is 16 and to hip is 24 inches. And I used the full length of the paper. This paper comes in about 27 inches and that's why I'm using it like that. On the shoulder line, I'm marking my shoulder measurement divided by 2, which is 7.5 inches, but I added half of an inch because I'll be adding a sleeve to this dress. So after doing that now, I'm going to mark my round bust measurement. I'm going to mark that line, my shoulder line, down on the bust line. I'll just bring it down. Then I'll mark my neckline measurement, which is going to be 3 inches width. So just make sure you're using 3 inches. Just 3 inches is fine. So use 3 inches, and then for the depth, I'm just going to mark 1 inch for now. And I'm just going to connect that and create a cycle. So once that is done, I'm going to go and create the shoulder slant. So I'm going to go down by 1 inch at that point where I have the shoulder measurement divided by 2. Then I'll connect it to the neckline like this, creating a slant line. And that's going to serve as the shoulder slant. So after doing that, it's at this point I'll mark my bust measurement divided by 4. Then from the shoulder slant there, I'm going to mark my chest line. To get this, you just need to divide your round bust measurement by 6 and add 1.5 inches. And that will serve as your chest line. So I'll just mark that line like that. And I'll label that CH, which means chest line. And after doing that, I'll mark my round bust measurement divided by 4 as well on that chest line to create my armhole. So once that is done, I'm going to get half of that measurement and I'll mark that point, then come in by about 0.75 inches, not up to 1 inch. Then I'll create a curve on this point like this. And that's going to serve as my armhole line. So on the waistline, I'm going to mark my waist measurement divided by 4. I'll mark my hip line. At my hip line, I'll mark my hip divided by 4 and mark that line. So once I'm done doing that, I'm going to connect all the points together. So creating the pattern for this dress is super easy. You just need to mark your body's measurement like this. And the fact that this dress is not going to have a zip, I'll need to add some allowance. So I'm going to add about 2 inches on all these measurements because I need the dress to be free and because there will be no zip on this dress. So I'll mark on those lines 2 extra inches, 2 inches. I'll come on the waistline. I'll also mark, and I'll also add in half of an inch because I'll be sewing it. So that will be my sewing allowance, but I added all together 2.5 inches. So I'm just going to connect everything like this, and this is practically all about drafting this pattern. So after doing that, I'm going to create my allowance at the shoulder line, half of an inch at the top of that line, so that when I join my shoulders, I'm not going to run short of fabric. So I'm using my marker now to highlight these lines just to show you that this is the point where I'll be cutting from. So this is what it looks like, and I'm just going to highlight everything and I'll go ahead and cut. So I'll cut following the mark I have made with the marker, and this is what I'm going to use to transfer to my fabric. And now this fabric is so slippery that I could not even cut it on the table, so I had to do this on the floor. And now I'm just using my tape to show you that the full length of this fabric comes in 60 inches, and I'm going to be folding by that 60 inches for the back part of this dress because the cowl neck is going to be at the front part. So I'll be using this part that is by 60 for the back, and then I'll be folding on the other length of the fabric to get a longer piece for the front, because I'll be making a cowl neckline. If you don't understand what I'm saying, just keep watching and you're going to understand. So I simply brought that fabric that's by 60 and I placed on the longer one here. And before you cut out your fabric, make sure it is about 19 inches wide. Yeah, so that's 19 to or 18 inches. So that's just going to be fine. And now I'm just pinning up my fabric together so that I can draft the front and the back at the same time. So I'll simply bring my pattern paper now and I'll place it on it. And then I'm going to complete the pattern drafting on the fabric because my paper is not long enough to do this on the paper directly. So I'm pinning up the paper, the pattern paper now to the fabric, and I'm going to transfer everything. So to complete the pattern drafting on this fabric, from the hip line, I'm going to mark 8 inches, and that's going to be the next line on this dress. So this line is going to serve as that point where we have the curve before the dress opens up to give the A-line effect. And now I'm measuring what I have on the hip line, and I'm going to mark it on that line and subtract 1.5 inches. So whatever I have there, I'm going to take out 1.5 inches and I'm going to mark it there. And after doing that, I'll go to the end of this fabric like this, and I'm going to mark 16 inches, 16 to 17 inches, just to open up the dress and give the A-line effect like this, so that I can walk properly, because there will be no slit on this dress. After doing that, I'm simply transferring all the lines on the fabric, because I'm going to be slashing open this pattern at the chest line. So slash it open to the end, but don't cut out the paper. So I'm simply slashing it open, and then I'm going to spread it out to get the cowl effect that we have in the front of this dress. So this is the reason why I wanted the other fabric to be higher. And I'm marking the shoulder point there for the back, because the back is going to be normal. So I'll open the fabric and open the pattern, like this, while arranging it to look this way, and I'll pin it up. So at this point, make sure you're not using more than 6 inches. 6 inches to 6.5 is just fine. In my own case, I used about 8 inches, which was too much. I had to even cover it up with my lining piece. If not, my bust would have been exposed. So please take note when you're doing yours. Make sure yours is not more than 6 inches, except you are fine with exposing your body. So once I've decided how much I want to spread my paper by, I'm going to transfer these marks on the fabric. So I would simply use my chalk now, and I'm going to transfer all these marks on the fabric. So from the top line, I did not even know that my camera was not taking all this part. So the simple thing I need to do is to transfer this line exactly the way it looks at the shoulder, and create the armhole just the way it looks on this fabric like this. So if you don't really get what I was doing here, I'm going to drop a link to my video where I created a cowl neck top, and in that video I explained in details how to create a cowl neck dress or a top. So once that is done, from that shoulder point, I'm going to mark it straight up like this to the center. I did not know my camera was not taking all those parts, so sorry about that. Anyways, so once that's done, I'm just going to cut out the front part first. So from the bottom part, I'm going to start cutting out the A-line effect. And when I get to that line under the hip, I'm going to curve it out and cover out the hip, and I'll cut out the neckline. So even if you don't understand in details how I got this cowl neck, I'm still going to illustrate and show you what it looks like on the fabric. So after doing that, it is after I've cut out the front which has the cowl neck effect, I'm going to cut out the normal neckline for the back piece. This fabric is not clear, like it couldn't show the marks I made on this fabric. So I did not even notice that this is how it looked, but I still went ahead to record. So if I had noticed, probably I would have illustrated this on the paper. So this is what the back looks like now. The back does not have any cowl effect. It just comes out normally, the normal shoulder. So I'm just cutting out the round neckline of 1 inch by 3 inches on the back. And this is basically all about cutting. And I'll go back to my table now and I'll show you how it looks. Next thing I did was get a lining piece. So I just placed the fabric on another fabric and I got a lining piece. And this lining piece, I made sure it got up to about 4 inches under my armhole. So as you can see, this is the armhole and it I cut it to be longer than the armhole. So once I place this, I'm going to sew by just 1/2 inch, and when I'm done, it's going to give the effect, that cowl effect. Can you see what it looks like already? So I'll take this to my machine now and I'm going to sew by 1/2 inch. And for the back piece, I also cut out a regular facing, and the facing is just a regular round neck facing, and I would be doing the same thing I'm going to do for the front on the back. So this is how you simply place your fabric, like make sure the center is on a fold and cut out the facing. So this is what it looks like now. I'm going to show you. I'm going to just place right sides facing right sides, and I'll also sew by 1/2 inch. Then I'll turn it to the front. So when I use my facing to turn out my neckline, I usually cut out the excess so that it lays flat. And to secure your facing, you can make use of a hemming gum to really put it in place. So now I'm going to join at the shoulders, and the simple thing I did here was to place the main shoulders on each other. Then I brought the lining pieces from the front. I brought the lining piece to meet the back lining piece. So this is what it looks like, and I'll simply pin that up and I'll sew by 1/2 inch to join the shoulder. And this is what the dress was looking like at this point when I joined the shoulders. You can already see the cowl effect forming in front. So after doing that, the thing I needed to do next was to get my sleeves. And you remember the fabric I kept aside when I was cutting? I just brought it here now for the sleeves. So for the sleeves, it's really easy to draft. Just draft a basic sleeve pattern and make sure that the wrist area is really wide. So my full length of sleeve was 26 inches, but because I'll be hemming the bottom and attaching it to the shoulder, I added 1 extra inch allowance, and then I cut it out at 27 inches. And to get my armhole, I just brought the dress here and I placed my tape from the shoulder, the top of my shoulder, and I got the armhole length like this, and I had about 11 inches. So the simple thing I did now is to get my cap height, which was about 4 inches from the top of that fabric, and I marked 11 inches there. So that's the cap's height. Then I created a slant line to meet that 11 inches. Then I created a curve at that top part. And that was basically all about the sleeves. So at this point, I marked my regular wrist circumference, arm circumference, and I added about 5 inches. And at the wrist area, I also used the whole of the sleeve of the fabric, which was 11 inches, because I needed the fabric to be I needed the sleeves to be wide. So at that curve part, at the curve, I just followed what I did there and just cut it out accordingly. And since we're working with 2 sleeves, I'm going to place this on another fabric and cut out exactly that. And I made a notch at the center of the fabric to help me know where the center of the sleeve is. Then I brought the dress and I placed the dress at the shoulder. I opened it up and I brought the center of that sleeve and I placed it right sides facing right sides. And at this point, I couldn't even find my pins. It seems my pins had disappeared. I don't know why pins always get lost easily like that. So the normal thing you're supposed to do is to pin up the whole thing to the end of the armhole so that it's easy to attach. So pin it up to that point and pin it up to the other side. So after doing that, this is what I had after attaching the first sleeve. And at the tip area, the tip of the sleeve, I hemmed it up like this. So whatever I did on the sleeve, I repeated the same process on the other sleeve, obviously. And now I'll just simply close up this dress. But before I close up this dress, I will need to create loops that will be at the back of this dress where my rope is going to pass. And this fabric is 1.5 inches long. I'm sorry, 1.5 inches wide. So I'll simply fold by half of an inch, and create this strap like this. Then I'll cut it out by 2.5 inches, and I needed only 4 pieces of this. That's 2 on each side. So I just placed it and cut. I simply cut it out and I fixed it at the waist point. I bent it into 2, then I placed it to be inside. So just look at what I'm doing. I folded it into 2 and I placed it on the waistline. So I'm placing only 2 on each side. So on this pattern, I placed 1 on that waist point. Then I placed another 1 inch above the waist point. So if you're not sure where your waist point is, just use your tape from your shoulder to your waist point. So this means my shoulder to waist is 16 inches. I placed 1 at 16 inches and I also placed 1 above, which was about 15 inches. I hope you understand. So I simply placed that and then I covered it up right sides facing right sides. And I took it to my sewing machine and closed up the dress just as I would normally do. And at the end of that, I created an orange loop, an orange strap for this dress because I wanted that pop of color. I did not just feel like using the fabric of the dress. So it created a different kind of look and I really liked the way it looked. And so if you really found anything helpful in this video, please just give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And this is me saying sorry about the overall view of this video because I did not know the fabric was so dark and there was nothing, no mark was showing on the dress. So maybe I'll try to do a clearer video to illustrate these things in the nearest future. Thank you and bye.